Zohran Mamdani has a familiar face endorsing him for mayor of New York City. Former New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio is throwing all his support behind the Democratic Socialist. De Blasio penned an op-ed in the New York Daily News saying Mamdani is, quote, relentlessly challenging the status quo of deepening unaffordability. De Blasio also went on to say, "We don't just need Zohran Mamdani to be our mayor because he has the right ideas or because they can be achieved. We need him because in his heart and in his bones, he cannot accept a city that prices out the people who built it and keep it running."
The former mayor praised Mamdani's calls for universal child care for children up to 5 years old, free city buses, and a rent freeze. But others on social media less enthusiastic. Republican New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney says Bill de Blasio goes on to discuss why we need Zohran Mamdani as mayor. It's like the arsonist is going to explain more why we need more gasoline.
Despite that, recent polling shows Mamdani leading in the five-person field for the general election. He was also endorsed yesterday by the Bronx Democratic Party.
Well, it's no surprise that Bill de Blasio has endorsed him. Bill de Blasio has been saying nice things about him all along, and Zohran said some nice things about de Blasio. I think the New York Times asked him who his favorite mayor of New York City is, and he said in his lifetime, there's no question, it was de Blasio. De Blasio is a very left-leaning figure who's deeply unpopular with conservatives, and I think overall was not quite popular with New Yorkers during his tenure, but it seems like New Yorkers aren't happy with anyone, honestly.
Well, to that point, there was a recent New York Times story, and the headline was something like, will there ever be a popular New York City mayor again? Obviously, Eric Adams is unpopular for specific, and I would argue, pretty good reasons. De Blasio, it's interesting, I looked up his popularity, and it did bounce around quite a lot. Like, it was very bad early in his term, then it recovered a bit, then it ebbed again. He served 2 terms, we should say. Ebbed again toward the end of his tenure. He did do some good things. I mean, he expanded pre-K, made it universal for 4-year-olds and expanded it to 3-year-olds. He got into a lot of battles with the police in New York, and he also had a particularly toxic relationship with Andrew Cuomo, who was governor at the time, and we have discussed Mr. Cuomo numerous times on this show. But look, not a huge surprise that de Blasio endorses Mamdani. They are, as you say, cut from broadly similar ideological cloth, and there we are.
On the endorsement front for Mamdani, what has surprised is maybe not the right word, but it is interesting, and I think stupid from a pure political tactics point of view, is the very chilly reception he has gotten from Hakeem Jeffries and many other national Democrats. Seems utterly idiotic to me, and I don't like Mamdani and I don't like his politics, but I'm not a Democrat for that reason. The Democratic Party, this is someone who is exciting to people in New York, who's going to win. You can't stop him. He is going to win. You have no plan to beat him. So it's going to be him. It would seem obvious that you want to have a good relationship with him. And, maybe it has to be combative if he starts saying, Zohran is the National Democratic Party's answer, and we should be running Zohran-style candidates on Zohran-style platforms everywhere. Then I might see their discomfort. But just for mayor of New York, they can't even embrace him there. They're so... and then I start to want... I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist. Is it his not even that crazy Israel answers are actually what has put them off him? That seems nuts to me.
No, I mean, certainly, well, firstly, I don't find his views on Israel and Gaza at all. I mean, I'm broadly in agreement with a lot of his views on that, but those have elicited a lot of pushback from the Cuomos of the world and people like that.
I think his answer on, I know he didn't say it himself, but how he described the Intifada slogan was not a good answer, but that's all, and the other answers were fine, and who cares?
And as you say, he didn't use it himself, and he got into a somewhat academic debate about that slogan. To your broader point, I mean, I think the forcefulness of his views on that issue go with the forcefulness of his views on a number of other issues to create the kind of excitement that you're talking about. Now, he is never going to excite people on the centre right or on the right, because those aren't the views that he holds. But they do create considerable excitement among Democrats. And we have this establishment Democratic reaction, which is very negative toward him, when it would be very simple just to say, look, if you're more centre-left than him, to just say, look, he's running for mayor of New York, he won the primary fair and square, he won it by a wide margin. I don't think we should necessarily have his policies everywhere in the country, but he's the Democratic candidate and I support him. That's not a complicated thing to say. And they won't say it.
I mean, they had to do this with AOC when she won her seat, and she got she had her combative phase with Nancy Pelosi too, so maybe that's just, I mean, I'm sure they'll work it out eventually if he becomes the mayor, but I think they would have, or you would think they would have learned from that experience to be a little bit more warmer to this person to begin with, because again, they have nothing right now. The Democratic brand is totally toxic. There are not a lot of other figures. You know, there's Gavin Newsom, there's a couple other people, but not Obama. They don't have an Obama type person waiting in the wings. Right. And Obama himself thinks they should do an embrace of Mamdani
and has reached
in the context.
And has reached out to him himself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It makes you think that the leadership of the Democratic Party is just as confused as they seem to be. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, New Yorkers themselves. Maybe the New York focus of leadership is clouding their judgment or something? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I think that the danger is that those sort of Schumer, Jeffries type people just look not only out of step with where the party is or where their supporters are, but look kind of enervated or overly establishment, like they
overly
sit
cautious.
Overly cautious.
Like
they
afraid
sit
of
in
winning.
their little box. Yeah, and
he's gonna win.
Right.
It would be a different case if there was, if it was still the primary, or if because he was so far left, his actual victory was in jeopardy. Then I could understand the caution. But none of those things apply. Like, are they not reading the polls I'm reading? He's going to win.
Yeah.
The other three aren't combining. Again, if they combine, you could have a different situation. But they're not doing that, so he's going to win.
Right. No, absolutely. And the way to approach that is to embrace that and to recognize that there are, at the very least, elements within it that are what the voters actually want. Too often the Democratic Party, in its leadership form, wants to tell the voters what they should want rather than responding to what their voters actually do want.
Do they think if they embrace Mamdani, Republicans are going to portray them as in lockstep with him? Because I have a news announcement for them. Republicans are going to do that anyway.
Exactly.
Even if they negative endorse him, say we oppose him,
they'll still say that.
Posters are going to have
the party of Zohran Mamdani.
The party of AOC. It's the AOC Mamdani Socialist Party, the Soros-backed party, and that is going to be how it plays in conservative media, regardless.
Exactly.
So
no way of avoiding it.
I'm telling you. I'm letting you know the plan. I'm exposing the plan for all to see. It was not a secret plan, but I'm telling you what it is.
Robby's advice for the Democratic Party.
Might as well embrace him, because at least you get a nice hug out of it.
This is very true. We have a lot more to talk about on Rising. Stay with us after this.